Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Brandon Merrifield and I'm a student at the Cambridge Muslim College in my third year of the BA Honours Programme. And as part of a module that is offered in the third year called Religion in Modern Society, I was tasked with researching the question, to what extent can there be an Islamic modernity? And to do this, I focused on a popular contemporary documentary called Unnatural Selection. And in this documentary, there are two really iconic scenes that struck me. The first of them was when a professor at MIT was walking riverside, and he looked upon a set of trees, and he said, how inefficient all of this is. And then later on, a documentary cut to a scene of two Maori people perched on a mountain, looking at the mountain and marveling on its beauty and its creation. And they say, I think of my ancestors and what they did, and all my job to do today is just to continue that. And for me, this represents really a departure point, continuity and discontinuance. The Maori people really look to the past and see that there's a connection, whilst modernity, the modern man, really looks to the past and sees severance, that he ought to go away from it. One advocate of gene technology really said it can, quote, free us from our biology. So it's not only a conceptual severance from the past, it's also a physical severance from the past in every way possible. And so that really represented one departure point. But then in respect to Islam, I found that there was a great similarity between these ancient peoples, the Maori people. Whilst we share different values, it was very clear to me that we also have this conception of a continuance with the past. For example, every day we're called to engage in an age-old ritual, which is the prayer. A ritual that is mandated in heaven by God himself, that we're called to when the sun comes up, when it's at the zenith and when it goes down. And for me, that's really an act in which we're engaging with a recurrent truth, eternal truth. You know, it's a time when we're with the divine. And so I really thought to connect those dots, to say that actually the issue of modernity is one that goes far beyond Islam. It actually goes to the very beginning of creation, to the very beginning of human history. And so with that in mind, I thought, okay, well, how can I approach this from another aspect? What really can I bring to buttress this point? And then I focused on a prominent academic. Through the works of Wal Halaq, I looked at the works of a prominent Moroccan scholar called Shaykh Abdal Hakim. And one of the things that he mentioned about modernity is that modernity is not a monolith, it's a series of things. And it has features, and one of those features is that it's universalizing. It has this principle of universality called Mabda' al-Shumul. And this has two components. One of them is that when a society becomes successful, it seeks to proliferate itself within its own society. So the achievements of one society begin to expand horizontally toward in and of itself, and then to other cultures. This is known as the principle of extensibility and generalizability. So it expands within itself and then outwards. And this principle I found was almost antithetical to the Islamic tradition, because it seems to, especially in a Euro-American context, it seems to be culturally homogenizing. As in, the West now will essentially homogenize the rest of the world in some contexts, given the right set of variables. And that is exactly what I found to be difficult to reconcile with the Islamic tradition, because the verse that often comes up in my mind is أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن آياته خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف ألسنتكم وألوانكم إن في ذلك لآيات للعالمين. And so this verse where God says, he says, from his signs is the creation of the earth and the heavens, and the differences of your tongues and colors, and that is a sign for all of the worlds. And so if we are to try to bring that reality together with a culturally homogenizing system, we'll have a great difficulty in that. But then also to buttress that point, and this will be the last thing that I say, it seems that even though we can witness this cultural homogeny today, that it's actually led to diverse effects. So Chris Hedges, who wrote The Death of the Liberal Class, said that rather than this multiculturalism that the West holds on to, leading to a critique of structures and systems, what it has done instead has actually led to multiculturalism becoming an end in and of itself and creating almost a superficial type of diversity. And this is also mentioned in the article that Sheikh Hamza Yusuf wrote about monocultures. And he says that really pre-modern peoples had an inward diversity but an outward conformity. So the dress that you might see in a civilization would be the same, but inwardly there'll be a huge amount of depth and diversity and understanding. Whereas today what we have, because of modernity in some respects, is uniformity inwardly, but outward diversity. And those two things, I think, if we keep those in mind, those are the things that we will have difficulty with reconciling with the Islamic tradition. And so I attempted to posit in conclusion that Islam conceptually can deal with modernity. It can have a rudimentary modernity, but practically, the political forces force that modernity in perhaps a Euro-American way and manifestation, and therefore would have to make some sort of compromises. And that was really the crux of the argument for me, and I really enjoyed researching that subject as a student here at the Cambridge Muslim College. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for learning with us. At Cambridge Muslim College, we are raising the standard of Muslim scholarship through talks like these, but also through our certified academic programs. We're training our students to speak to our times and to meet the needs of our communities. But we can't do this without your help. Whether it's zakat, a one-off donation, or a regular contribution, your gift will help us educate more students, elevate new leaders, and illuminate entire communities for generations to come.